Hey everyone, this is Austin Nakatsuka at the Moran Eye Center, and I have a case here of a patient who was bothered by dysphotopsias from a perfectly centered lens in her eye, and it's an MX60E lens by Bausch and Lomb. I have no financial disclosures and nothing really against this lens. I use it all the time, but in this patient's case, she was really bothered by it, and she had negative dysphotopsias from it, so she basically saw a really dark shadowing in the upper temporal part of her vision. And so we talked about what to do for her in her case, and essentially I made a choice to exchange this out for another type of lens called the Li61AO lens, which is a silicone lens. And we can talk about various reasons as to why we do that. And there's other things that can be done for this, for negative dysphotopsias as well, including something called reverse optic capture of her current lens that's in there. But I chose to do that from experience and from other cases where this has been a problem. Anyway, so this main case is going to be mainly about the exchange of this MX60 lens because I ran into some issues here. And so here you can see me easily kind of dialing out one side there with viscodissection, and I'm just very careful to dissect that out with the viscoelastic and try to not touch the capsule. But the other side is sort of caught. You see that? And so something's caught there, and there's some adhesions there that are not allowing it to be removed. So I'm putting more viscoelastic in there to kind of try to free it up. And sometimes there can be some adhesions of the capsular bag from the anterior and posterior capsule around the haptic, and you just use viscoelastic to kind of dissect it out. But what's actually happening here, and it's hard to see in this view because it's kind of underneath that iris there, but what's happened is the anterior and posterior capsule have fused together within the eyelet of the MX60 lens. So this MX60 lens has a little eyelet right at the optic-haptic junction, and that's where the anterior and posterior capsule can fuse. See, I keep trying to pull it out through there, and I can't because there's adhesions in between it, and I can see them. I'm kind of pulling on it, and I can see that. And the problem is when I pull too much, I pull the zonules in that area too, so I don't want to pull too much toward the center. And so I'm trying to free this up however I can with my Malyugin manipulator, and it's not really letting me, and those adhesions are sticking between that eyelet there and fused in between. See, I can look at, I just took a look there and you can see it. And so I'm still trying to free it up with viscoelastic, and it's making it really difficult here. And I'm just looking at it, and I can see there's some adhesions in there, and that makes it really hard. So I got to make a decision here about how to free up those adhesions. And essentially I was thinking in this moment, okay, I could use a scissors, and I'm going to try and cut those adhesions with the scissors, and I believe that's what I'm trying to do right here. Yes, I'm trying to cut the adhesions with the scissors, yes. And I don't think they fully, they did not fully cut there, and it's a little difficult because I'm kind of cutting not quite blindly, but I can't quite see perfectly, right, because it's peripheral and under that iris. And I don't want to have those scissors touch the capsule at all to create another anterior or posterior capsule tear, and then I have another problem there. And so here I am putting a capsular hook in that area to just give me some traction to be able to remove this this part of the lens. And by the way, so I cut that lens in half so that I could kind of maneuver and manipulate around without having the other whole half or other haptic kind of rubbing on anything else or hitting the cornea or anything like that. So I have two capsular hooks here that are holding the anterior capsule to give it some traction there so that I have something to pull against. Because basically they need to act like zonules. If I'm pulling against the capsule or the zonules, I'll start to break them. So I need those capsule hooks there. And that's another added tip that many have shared when you have something that's stuck in the capsular bag and you're trying to exchange it out, is you put a capsular hook in that area and acts as reverse traction. And it also does me the favor of being able to see better because it holds that iris back. And I'm not magged in enough for you to see, but there. You can see me pulling on it. There. You can see me pulling on those. You see those little strings, the white things there? Those were the adhesions that had grown between the anterior and posterior capsule within that optic-haptic junction. And so I have to free those or cut those, you would think, to be able to get this out of there because it's just fusing there. And so I keep trying to do that with my scissors, and it's not working very well. It's really difficult here. Look at that. Oh, there. You saw me grab it with the Hinsky hook there. Try to cut again. Being really careful. I don't want to nip or cut any anterior capsule because all of a sudden then you're dealing with anterior capsule that can tear, that can run out. And so what I ended up doing there is I actually cut the optic-haptic junction itself. There we go, and then it frees up. So I actually cut the lens itself. I cut the optic-haptic junction because there's this triangle there of that optic-haptic junction. Cut the lens itself so that it could just free, so that because I couldn't cut those adhesions, so it just freed itself that way, and then I can kind of mobilize it and get it free from, there we go, free from that adhesion. So the adhesions are still there. They're still in there. They were being stubborn and I couldn't cut them out. So I just went ahead and cut one piece side of the MX60E lens there, okay? And that way I was able to get it out. And I do have this other tip to share, is that I find that cutting the optic in half or cutting it near the optic-haptic junction makes it a lot easier to deal with instead of dealing with the whole lens. If it doesn't easily dial out and you have to kind of struggle and get it out of this capsular situation or fusion situation, you know, regardless of where it's fused, then if you cut a large part of the lens out of there, then it ends up being easier to deal with. It's more manageable. You can grab it with your forceps and move it around and not risk damaging other structures. And so quick discussion about the lens type. So that MX60E, the capsule fuses between those optic-haptic junctions there, and that's where the problem can be, right there. There are the ZC-BU lenses, or the DI-BU lenses that are made by Johnson & Johnson, the Technis platform. Those ones have these little notches right at the optic-haptic junction, and that's often where you'll have some trouble, or there'll be some adhesions that'll be a problem to free them up. And then there's the Alcon lenses, which have those little bulb at the end of the optic-haptic junction, and those can create a little sleeve, and then it gets stuck at that bulb there. And that's where you can have issues there, so freeing that up is more peripheral. Okay, here what I'm doing is I enlarge the wound, and I'm injecting in the silicone lens, and you see it pops out like that, so you got to be really careful when you're injecting any silicone lenses. And so in this case, I decided to put it into the anterior chamber first, and then slowly dial it into the sulcus, because I felt that was just more calm and controlled. Oftentimes when I'm injecting a three-piece lens, I'll inject it into the sulcus first, but this one I just wanted it to be calm and controlled as much as possible. And we had to enlarge the wound for that. And so I put that into the sulcus, and I purposely am leaving it in the sulcus. I'm not optic capturing it where I push the optic into behind the anterior capsule there. I'm purposely leaving it in the sulcus because this is a negative dysphotopsia situation. So one of the definitive treatments for the most part, okay, for negative dysphotopsia is to put a three-piece lens in the sulcus. Now, I've put three-piece lenses in the sulcus for negative dysphotopsia before, and I've used other lenses, and it actually didn't work sometimes, even with another type of silicone lens like the ZA9002. But I find the Li61AO has some inherent properties about it besides the refractive index, which is lower, which is why it's better for positive dysphotopsias. But there's something inherent in it that makes it better for negative dysphotopsia too. And if you move it anterior to the capsule and leave it in the sulcus, you have a high chance of getting rid of that negative dysphotopsia. The other thing you can do is the reverse optic capture, where you pop leave the haptics in the bag, but pop the optic of the lens that's in the bag anterior to the capsule. But that can cause some issues as well, and sometimes doesn't take care of the problem. So that's what I chose to do in this situation, and it did take care of the negative dysphotopsia in her case, which was good. But I mainly wanted to show how difficult it can be to remove that MX60E lens when it's fused between that optic-haptic junction there. So thank you for your time, and thanks for watching that with me, and hopefully that helped people. Thanks.